Scott Bryne was born on March 15, 1972 in Lloydminster, but was raised in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. As a boy, he wanted to be a rodeo cowboy, and in 1990 he tried his hand at riding bulls. His uncle Ryan was one of Canada's foremost bullfighters, and in 1994, Ryan told Scott that maybe riding bulls was not in his best interests. Scott took his uncle's words to heart and scrounged up the courage to ask as well if he could follow in Ryan's footsteps and attend the bullfighting school held in conjunction with the Johansson Brothers Bull Riding School. Ryan agreed, and starting in 1995, Scott began learning the finer points of bullfighting from one of the best in the game. After graduating at the top of his Uncle Ryan's class in 1995, Scott headed out on the road and began his bullfighting career in the Canadian Cowboys Association beside one of Canada's fastest rising stars, bullfighter Jason Davidson. In just his first year on the amateur circuit, Scott was selected to fight bulls at the Canadian Cowboys Association finals. In 1997, Scott obtained his permit with the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association and worked his first pro rodeo show beside his Uncle Ryan at the Medicine Hat Spring Rodeo. It was the beginning of an amazing career and gave birth to the legend of Scott Bryne. In the spring of 1997, Scott received a call that would alter his career path when Stampede Rodeo manager Winston Bruce called and offered him the opportunity to fight bulls for the slack performances of the Stampede's Rodeo Royal. Scott accepted. Winston was so impressed with the job Scott had done at Rodeo Royal, he called Scott again to see if he might be interested in working one of the performances of Calgary's Summer Rodeo that year, as Winston called it. Scott paused for a minute until he realized that Winston was offering a performance of the greatest outdoor show on earth, the Calgary Stampede. He accepted, and it was the start of a very successful 20-year relationship that Scott had with the Calgary Stampede. In 2000, Scott received another career-altering phone call, this time from stock contractor Wayne Vold, who offered Scott all of his small CPRA rodeos. And by 2001, Scott was fighting bulls at all of Wayne Vold's CPRA rodeos and continued to do it for the next 16 years. Jason Davidson informed him in 2002 and told him that he had been selected to fight bulls at the Canadian Finals Rodeo in Edmonton. It was the first of a 14-year run at the CFR that saw Scott selected 13 times to fight bulls and once as the alternate for the Canadian Finals Rodeo. 2006, Scott was selected for what would be the first of a 10-year run at the PBR Canada Finals as well. After 20 years of fighting bulls, Scott Bryne made the conscious decision to call it a career and retire at the completion of his 2015 year. He received touching tributes at the Calgary Stampede and at the 2015 PBR Canada Finals in Saskatoon. That was to be his swan song. But a month before the 2016 Calgary Stampede, he received a call from Barry McGrath asking him if he'd come back just one more time, which ultimately became Scott's final show. After the CFR later that year, Scott Bryne was honored with the CPRA's 2016 Cowboy of the Year award, providing a fitting end to an extraordinary career. With his career over, Scott transitioned from bullfighter to color commentator on the 2017 TSN's coverage of PBR Canada, showcasing the behind-the-scenes stories to new generations of fans all across Canada. Over his career as a professional bullfighter, rodeo was very good to Scott Bryne. Although he had a few misadventures along the way, the sport gave Scott the opportunity to work at Canada's most renowned and celebrated rodeos, such as Innisfail, Cloverdale, Ponoka, Strathmore, the Canadian Finals Rodeo, the PBR Canada Finals, and the Calgary Stampede, among others. But Scott Bryne was equally as good to rodeo, putting his life on the line for thousands of bull riders, entertaining millions of rodeo fans through his craft and technique, and as a role model both in and out of the arena. Through it all, Scott had the love and support of his wife Reagan and two boys, Braden and Dylan. His contributions to pro rodeo in Canada are immeasurable, and for that, it's an honor to welcome Scott Bryne as a builder into the Canadian Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.